Hello and welcome to this new series on converting a 2D structural drawing into a complete full-fledged 3D walkthrough and creating an apartment set for a virtual film production for a web series wherein we are going to take a 2D drawing and convert it into a full-fledged apartment set. We are now provided with these kind of 2D drawings. As you can see here, our entire apartment will be in a site area of 40 feet by 60 feet, which is nothing but 12.19 meters by 18.28 meters. And in this, the building construction plans are provided here, and using the specification provided in this construction plan, we are now going to build our 3D walkthrough. But if you want the resource files, then in the description of the YouTube video or in the LMS description, you have a Patreon link here. When you click on this link, this will take you to this Patreon page, and in this page, if you scroll down, you have all the downloadable resources here in attachment. And the very first resource is houseplan_images.zip. You can download it to get the map and the plan design files, and you have apartment_set_01.zip. If you click on this, this is around 1.8 GB. So it is now downloaded in the downloads folder. I am going to right click on this, click on extract all, and if you click on the extract button, now you have this apartment_set_01 file. You can just take this folder and paste it into your D Unreal projects folder. Now in this case, we are going to start with a new project. I will come to Epic Games Launcher, double click to launch on it. Once it is launched in Unreal Engine library, I will click on 5.6.0 version and click on launch. Now once this Unreal project browser opens, I will come into film, video and live events, select blank, and I am going to call my project as apartment_set, and in D Unreal project folder, I am going to click on create. Now here, if it asks for project file update, you can update it. Come into the content drawer. I will come into content and I will right click and create a new folder, and I am going to call this as maps. And inside the map, I will right click and I will create a new level, and I am going to call this as apartment_1. I will just double click to open it, and if you get this save content prompt, click on save selected, and as of now you can see there is no light. We come into window, environment light mixer, and here click on create skylight, create direction light, create sky atmosphere, create volumetric cloud, and create height fog. And then I will close this. I will come into the outliner, right click, and I will create a new folder, and I am going to call this as atmosphere, and I am going to select all these 5 with shift press and drag it and place it inside this atmosphere folder. Then I will come to file and choose save all. We are going to first put up a ground area wherein we are going to later replace it with a Google Maps image. From the selection mode, I will come into the modeling mode. I will come into the box mode, and this time I am using a static mesh. I am going to set the width of it to 10,100 meters and depth 10,000, height 60. In the pivot location, I am going to set it to top. Click somewhere here and click accept. Now we are not seeing it because this is a huge box. If I press F and if I right click and if I press E and move up, you can see this huge area over here. Come into the outliner, select this, press F2, and I am going to call it as SM_ground. And similarly, if you come into content drawer, since it is a static mesh in generated Satvik, you can see this box. I am going to right click, choose rename, and I am going to call it as SM_ground and press enter. Now for this ground area, later on we are going to add a Google Map image, roads, and all these things we will add it later. As of now, to give some kind of material See, we haven't discussed what is material till now, and there will be a separate session on material. We are going to now discuss a little about material. Now, what is this material is? The material adds the property to our model, how it reacts to light. The reaction of our object to light depends upon the type of material that we have added to it. I will come into content drawer, and in content I am going to create a new folder, and I am going to call this as materials. And in this materials folder, I am going to right click and I am going to create a new material. So, when I click on material, you get a new material. I am going to call this material as ground. Now, once I create a material and if I double click this, you are open with this node. Now, here I will come and click on the base color here, and say for example, here I choose some kind of a color which is some brownish color for ground, and if I click OK, now this color will be added here. And now if I save this and then come into the scene, now I will come to content drawer and I am going to drag and attach the ground to this SM ground object. However, this looks like a plain color, whereas I want the real ground output means instead of giving the color, we can attach textures. Texture is nothing but an image that we are going to use to represent our material. Say for example, if I want to create a ground or a grassy ground here, you have certain resources from where you can download the best textures. Open your browser, come to the site called polyhaven.com. If you come into assets, you have textures. Click on textures. You have different categories here, and I am going to choose terrain. And in terrain, you have different type of terrains, and I am going to choose this rocky terrain too. And once I click on this, you have the download button. You can set the resolution here 4K or 8K, 2K. Right now, I will use a 4K texture, and I am going to click on download. Now, we have downloaded this file. I will just right click and I am going to extract all these texture files, and once you extract it, you have textures, and inside this you can see that you have 5 textures here. Come into Unreal Engine, come into content browser, and in your content I will right click and create a new folder, and I am going to call this folder as textures. Then double click to open it. Now right click and click import to current folder, and now come to your download rocky terrain 024k.blend file, choose textures, and now select all the 5 textures here and click open. So now you can see that all the textures have been added over here. So now I will come to the material and I will open the ground material. I will open my content drawer, come into textures, and I am going to drag this rocky terrain 02 different texture onto this material, and I am going to connect this RGB to the base color over here. Then immediately you can see how the texture color has changed to this image. Now in this material you can see that this displacement is grayed out. Now to enable this displacement, I am going to come into search and I am going to search for nanite, and when I type nanite, here you have a feature here, enable tessellation. Now as soon as I enable this, you can see displacement is now switched on. Now I will come back to content drawer, texture, and I am going to drag this displacement map here, and I am going to drag and attach the displacement map to this. I will just drag it a little. You have rocky terrain normal. I will just drag this texture now here, and I will just drag the displacement texture down, and I am going to connect this normal to the normal, I will connect it to the normal, and then you have another texture called as rough. I am going to drag this rough and I am going to just drag this RGB color from here and attach it to roughness. I will just move it. I have this specular. I will drag this specular. So, I will just move this down, bring this specular texture here, and I am going to connect this from here to specular. I will come here and I am going to save this material. And once I close this, you can now see the ground. I have applied it with this ground material, and you can now see how realistic this ground looks. I will select this SM ground and see that its location, rotation, everything has been reset to 0, 0, 0. Now, I am going to add my site area. If you open the attached house plan underscore 001 layer 8 file, in this they have provided you the site dimension. The width is 12.19 meters and height is 18.28 meters. So, now I will come into Unreal Engine and coming into modeling mode. Now, in create I am going to choose box. Even this I will keep it as a static mesh, and in the width 12.19 meters means 1219 centimeter, and similarly I will set the height to 18.28, and depth I am going to set it to around 1 feet, which is around 30 centimeter. I will come into pivot location and I am going to choose it as base. I will bring it somewhere here, click accept, and I am going to reset its position to 0, 0, 0, and now I have my site placed on this ground. This is my site area. I am now going to come into my outliner. I will press F2 and I am going to call this as SM underscore site area, and even I will come into content drawer, maps, generated, Satvik, and even here I will right click on this box and I am going to rename this as SM underscore site area. Now, the next material I have to add is for my site area. I am going to add a tiled material, and this time we are directly going to import material from Fab. If you come into Epic Games Launcher and in the library, say if you scroll down and if you come into Fab library and if you type Fab, there is a plugin called Fab UE plugin. You have to install it to the engine. Right now, it has already been installed. I will cancel this. If you come into content drawer, you will see this button Fab. When I click on this Fab button, you should have logged into your account here, and then I will come here and I am going to search for floor tiles and press enter. I will maximize the screen, and in price I am going to enable free. I only see the free materials, and in these free materials, if you just go through this material, here you have one old hexagonal tiles and I want to use it in my ground area. So, I am going to select this tile here and I am going to click on add to project. So, when I click on add to project, all these files will be downloaded onto your project. So, now I will close the Fab window, and if you come into content drawer and content, now you have a new folder created here called as Fab. If I double click it, you have this old hexagonal tiles. If you open this, inside this in material, you have this initial shading group. I am going to just drag it and attach to this surface. You can see this tile is so huge. It is very large, and this is where in modeling we will come into UVs and we are going to adjust this UV. You have first one feature called auto UV, which is going to generate UVs on its own. So, if I click on auto UV, you can see it will create the UVs automatically. I need to use the poly group. So, I will just cancel this. I will now come into my model poly group edit and see that poly groups are available here, and then I will come into UVs. Now, I am going to choose UV unwrap, and here unwrap it based on the poly groups, and I am going to click accept. I have unwrapped the UV, and only thing is this size is very big. I will come into this option transform UV, and I am going to select this top face, and then you have the scale button here, and I am going to scale this to 0.05 along X and 0.05 along Y. And now you can see that my entire floor area has been tiled. Okay, so now once I am happy with the tile, I will click accept here. We have successfully added the material to our site area, and our next mission is to add the compound. Actually, I can come into model and I can create box and cylinders and place the compound all around. However, when we are working in Unreal, the beauty of Unreal is, in this you have many free resources available to you, and you can use it and instantly create objects. And right now the prop I need is the compound wall. I will come into file, choose save all. I will come into content drawer, and again I will click on fab, and now in this fab window I will come in search, and I am going to search for walls and press enter. Here again in pricing I will set it to free, and now in this list you have one wall bundle available. So, I will click on this wall bundle, and you have license here. Click here. For personal use it is free. So, I will choose personal here, and I am going to click on add to project. See, this is not compatible with 5.6. So, it is asking me to select the version, and in the list I am going to choose the latest version, which is 5.2 here, and I am going to click on add to project. You can now see this complete wall bundle will be downloaded and it will be added to my project. Now, once the files have been downloaded, I am going to close Fab, and coming into Unreal, it is asking for 180 changes to source content file have been detected, and would you like to import them? Click on import, and now all these 183 files will be imported into the scene. Once all the assets have been imported, come to file and choose save all. Now, if you come into your content drawer content, now you have a new folder created called as wall bundle. If I double click it, and if I come into the scene, and if I double click on overview, it is showing warnings. Click clear and close this, and now here you can see that in this you have got different types of walls, and I am going to show you. So, you have, see, different amount of different types of walls are available. See, I can choose any kind of walls that is downloaded here. So, I am going to use these walls for building my compound. I am going to come to file and choose save all. So, in this session we created our ground area and understood the basics of material. We created one material by importing textures from Polyhaven, and then we took another material directly from the Fab marketplace, downloaded and used it. So, in our next session we are going to start constructing the compound.